So, good afternoon. Philippe Vangeel, representing AVERE, the European Association for Electromobility. Who are we? Who do I represent? Well, we are an association, non-profit organization representing a big group of members. We are split in national associations. They representing each time their country with their industry or EV drivers. And then we also have direct industry members. What we want to do, we want to make e-mobility happening in Europe. We want to decarbonize transport, and it's, we don't have to explain it. It's really happening now. Now, we already had, of course, a mission and a vision. The mission decarbonizing, vision, actually we wanted to have it already by 2030 done. You know, the average lifetime of a vehicle. If you want to reach the 2050 COP, the Paris Agreement, to reach that 2050 goal, you should actually start in time. Come back later on that. Making Europe a world leader in electromobility. We are doing it good, but we have competition from China, not only with the products, but they're also doing it. We are not doing it alone, but they're also delivering the products on a higher speed that we want to see them currently. That's a challenge. This is the number of internal combustion engines on the road. And already mentioned by other speakers, we don't have to replace them one by one by an electric vehicle. We should reduce them. We don't solve congestions just by replacing them. We need to do much, much more than that. Now, what is the state of play? This graph shows actually that we are doing very, very good. Better than forecasted, better than the EIA forecasted 5 years ago, or Bloomberg. So, hands up, cars getting delivered. There is, of course, complaints about delays, but we are going in a good direction. Now, looking at the charging infrastructure, and many people say, but charging infrastructure is not following. Well, we actually don't agree, because if you put this graph from the European numbers of charging points, you see that it is also going in more or less in the same line, and we are very happy with it. Are there gaps? Yeah, of course there are gaps. The gaps is not to find in the Netherlands, so congrats for the Netherlands. You have a lot of charging points. Give yourself an applause. You don't want to? Yeah, come on. We will hear about that later on, about the National Action Charging Infrastructure Plan, if I'm correct. So it's good to mention also and inspire other politicians and how to do it and how we can do it. Also a bit maybe repeating the complexity of charging infrastructure, and as part of our role that we have to translate this to policymakers. And don't forget, I think here in the room, many EV drivers, maybe you can raise your hand. Who is driving an electric vehicle? I was last week in Istanbul and I asked the same question, and I only had 3 hands up with the same audience. And I think also with policymakers, we are not all so in favor of making the switch, making the mind switch. So we have to explain a lot of complexity. Now, a few words about the European policy files. I know talking about policy files is not the most exciting thing of the day. I will do my best. Good news. Last week, we got a final agreement, not a final vote, but an agreement between the Council and the Parliament that the 2035 phase-out will become true for the full European Union. So no oppositions, no hurdles to mention. So my slide is actually more or less outdated. It's happening. We're gonna get there. So hands up, from 2035, we only sell non-internal combustion engines. So also there, steps ahead. The same discussions are going on for heavy-duty vehicles. So there is a lot of discussions when it should be, how fast it should go. The good thing is that actually the consumers who are buying these heavy-duty vehicles want to have these products. So they're ramping up. The industry is slowly following. The first heavy-duty vehicles builders are ramping up with full electric lines. So hands up. AVERE. I know also the European Union is very strong in funny acronyms. AVERE, we're coming from the AFIT, from a directive. Now we go to a regulation, and the discussions are going on, which is good. We're going to have a regulation which says, for example, every 60 kilometers on the European highways, we need high-power chargers with a minimum of 350 kilowatts. Are we happy with that? Of course, yes. They talked about payment requirements. Are we happy with that? Less worries when you travel abroad through Europe. Now there is a few gaps. We also have AC charging, and AC charging we need. We have a very high need on that. Also defined. The Commission have been very smart. They didn't think about numbers, but they have defined a quote on the number of kilowatt-hour battery packs sold. So they don't think about how many EVs we need to charge. They're thinking about how much battery capacity each vehicle has to be charged. Much smarter. Now, one big concern, and that's why I mentioned that not all politicians have the knowledge what you are doing, of what's doing like the project here. For example, it would be easier that, of course, that if you go to charge, that you can pay with your bank pass, your bank card. Now, they found it actually also good that you could do it also for slow charging, for AC charging. You could think, yes, maybe, but we know from the industry that it's quite expensive. Now they also want to do it retrofitting, so by potentially 25, 28, all the charging infrastructure that is already in place should be rebuilt to also accept bank cards. Is this a smart idea? We don't think so. And is it necessary? It's also questionable. So there we have some discussions with the European Parliament ongoing, and I think we really have to avoid this issue because there is a big risk that this retrofitting comes in place that some operators will just pull out the plug, that they just say, forget it, this we don't do, this is too expensive, not. EPPD, Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, and you think, wow, building directive, what do we have to do with electric vehicles? Well, quite a lot. You heard it earlier. If you have a shared parking lot or you have you own an apartment and you have a parking set, the co-owners, they can say, yeah, you with your EV, no way, not charging in our garage. Well, this directive tries to solve these things. The right to plug. You have your own parking spot. Can I plug my car? A very important one, actually very underestimated. This is a revision, so we are trying to improve this. And the European Union wants also, or the European Commission at least, also wants smart charging mandatory. So there is no question that in the future, private charging points will be installed stupidly. How it's going to be. No, it should be smart. And they're also thinking ahead on V2X, bidirectional. Because also there they know if we can really scale up, we saw this big number in the beginning, if we can connect 10 million EVs with an average of 40 kilowatts, and you make the calculation, this is a nuclear plant, a big one. So you have really a lot of storage. Just coming back on this, Flanders did one good thing. If you want a charging point in your garage, in the condominium, nobody can refuse it. So the co-owners or the what's the best name? The Vereniging van Eigenaars. They cannot refuse it anymore in Flanders. So we are, for once, a step ahead. Now, the challenge. With AVERE, we have been in several projects. I'm already happy to be here today in this project. There is new also Horizon Europe projects, Scale and Flow. Bart will soon explain a bit more. In the past, we have been in the project C for City, bidirectional charging in the cities. Yeah, it goes hand in hand with big data challenges. And there is a lot of data going to get produced, and there is a lot of questions about this data. It's difficult to read, but there is interoperability, who owns the data, and also there is policy files upcoming. There is the Data Act, and they're going to define, or try at least to define, who's going to own this data. You buy your EV, is the EV, as you as an owner Do you own the data, or is it the car maker? Or is the one who you connect with with the charging point? So a lot of questions there that we want to answer on. So this is in a nutshell of our daily activities. But I don't agree with Robert. We are at the end of the beginning. We are really, our point of view is that we know which direction we go. Everything is in place. We know how to build EVs. We know how to roll out charge infrastructure. There's no question anymore for are we going to do it, how are we going to do it. We know how to scale up. So that's a very good of the end of the beginning. Can we do better? Yes, we can do better. We can do bidirectional charging potentially in the future, but there is not anything that stops us to buy EVs today or tomorrow or 2035 to go full electric for everyone. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Philippe.